Hello and welcome everybody. We are here, season two, betting with Big Amo, back for some more. Trying to put some jingle in your pocket. Tell you a little bit about betting. There he is, right there in the middle. Big Amo, why don't you please tell everybody about yourself?
Hello, everybody. I'm very excited about this year. It's going to be fantastic. The football season's almost around the corner, and we've got plenty of things we can gamble on. It'll be good.
Absolutely. Joining us today is a very special guest, dear near friend of mine. I've been working with him for about 2 years now. We talk a lot about bets throughout the year, not just football. And he happens to be the Warrior Bowl original champion. Welcome to the show, Stephen Perkins at Flavorizes. How are you doing, my man?
Hey guys, I'm excited to be here. This is going to be a fun show. I've loved talking to Amo and Iggy about my bets, and this is something I've been looking forward to for weeks. So this is going to be awesome.
Yeah, I'm so glad to have you. Yeah, Stephen talks about a key bet that we're going to highlight at the kind of more the end of this show. Show's going to take about 30 minutes, guys. If you are following these guys, please go follow them. It's Loco Beans with the Z. Flavorize this. You can see it right on the bottom. Please go follow me on Patreon. You can follow me on all these accounts actually, right there. But I'm going to be putting all my articles on the Patreon. Okay, so they're all going to be free. Just if you want my written articles this year, that's where they're all going to be at. This show is going to be live at this time slot every week until the Super Bowl going forward. Probably going to go into the basketball season as well. We might switch the day because basketball has a different premiere night. But every Sunday going forward, all the way, we're talking 18, 19, 20, 22 weeks, guys. Big Amo is going to be here giving his advice for us to all have fun with. Hopefully we get some more wonderful guests like Steven. 10 o'clock, going to be about 30 to 40 minutes, not putting the time strain on it, but we're going to have fun. All right, so what we're doing at the beginning is talking about the basics of betting, fellas, okay? The basics of betting, meaning bankroll, unit, goals, hot or not, cash out. All these things you need to know because if you're new to betting, don't just go get thrown into the wolf's den, which are the bookies, all right? Because they're very smart. They know how to make money. They're a very profitable business, and they're looking for new blood, all right? So we're here to help you with that, particularly you new bettors. And this is a good refresher for, seasoned bettors like Big Amo and Steven and so forth, all right? This is great stuff. Bankroll. Who wants to talk about the bankroll and the unit? One of you guys can just hop on that if you'd like real quick.
I'll jump on there, Iggy. Right. So what I'm actually starting with Iggy and direct, well, like an extra arm, is the fact that I've started a semi-pro better, which will be out next week. So I'm going to try and transform myself into not a degenerate, which I obviously am, but more towards a professional sort of side of it. So making sure that I'm looking after my finances in the tricky world. So what I have set up is a mantra, which is the principles of betting for a semi-professional bettor. So we always start with a bankroll. So we start with a bankroll which is made up of disposable income. So this is an allotted pool of money which you've set aside, so that you can then bet with freedom. You don't have to worry about too many things. The idea of having a bankroll is so that you can sort of manage and budget and organize your bets better, so that you are then not in a situation come sort of Monday night and you've lost all your money. This way you haven't lost all your money because we're effectively using a bankroll to fund it, and the bankroll will be generally sort of 10 to 15% will be a units for the weekend. So we're looking at units as well, as rather than sort of turning around to you and saying I'm betting 1.5 billion pounds on this. Everyone will have different disposable incomes. So my unit bet might be different to Stevens. It might be different to Iggy's as well. It might be different to Bill Gates. But the idea is that we're looking to build on units and build profitability. So we could get into the nitty gritty and go into sort of ROIs and why we do this and everything else. But we want to have freedom when we want to bet, and we want to not take it personally. So if our bet loses, we want to make sure that we enjoy it, because after all, this could be a second form of income if necessarily. But we've got to do it professionally. Another thing we should always do, we should always record everything that we bet, so that we can then analyze it a little later on. And you should always have more bookies than just the one, because each bookies will try and compete against each other. So what we need to do is try and get the best value and the best odds that we possibly can, and we do that by having more bookies. So our mantra basically is have a bankroll that you're comfortable with and you're prepared to lose all of it, and it doesn't affect your day-to-day life afterwards. And then it's a case of betting smart, getting the right bets in, choosing the right bets, and then having a very profitable and exciting weekend watching the sport that we love.
Absolutely. You have anything to add to that, Stephen, as far as like betting, generalization, like, basics of?
No, I think that's all great advice. I think you have to know your limits. You could be your unit could be $1. I mean, and you're just doing it for fun, and you have a $10 bank, and that's your bankroll, and that's fine. I mean, that's great, and everybody's got their own limits. And just what Big Amo was saying, you got to shop for the best price. So you have FanDuel, you have DK. There's all these competing companies right now, and they're all trying to win your business, and there's some great bonuses that you can get if you're new and you're signing up. So look for those great deals, and we'll talk about some of those great deals in the futures today. But it takes like 2 minutes, 3 minutes to find the best price on something, and that can make a difference between an extra 10, 15, 25 cents. And that as you go throughout the season, it's going to make a big difference on how you end up with your bankroll. So
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great point. Stay within your means. I'd like to bring that to my next point, which is goals. You got to have goals in your betting. For Big Amino and I's purpose, we have our bankroll set aside already for the season, and our goal is to get free rolling. What that means is basically we want to double our bankroll, and then we're going to withdraw it. We're going to withdraw our original amount, and now we're just on house money with our original bankroll amount. Now it's like, well, it was already disposable income. Now we've gotten back that disposable income, and now we're playing on the house money. Just like if you get a good hand in cards, you go in poker. Some people like to hit the roulette table right when they walk in. Then they get some free money. Boom, that gets put away. Well, I didn't walk home a complete loser kind of thing. That's my goal. You can have different goals as a semi-professional bettor. I'm sure Big Amo has different goals than just a recreational bettor. One thing you could be like is I just want to celebrate and win money every time my team wins. Okay, but we're going to give you an opportunity to talk about that here in a little bit. But I just think you need to have goals set aside, and the bankroll is a big part of it. Do not be putting yourself in a bad situation, your family in a bad situation, because you lose. Okay, let me tell you something. Losing is going to happen. Professional bettors hit at a mark of about 54%. Think about that number. 54% professional bettors. So having said that, you got to put in a lot of work to get an ROI. We mentioned that a little bit. We might talk a little bit about that next week. That's a return on investment. Very important. And when you're hot, you're hot. When you're not, you're not. I think that's a very important aspect to know. You can rattle off several bets in a row, win several units. Then you could go on an even longer losing streak and lose all those units you just gained and go back into your reserves on your bankroll. Be prepared for that to happen, all right? These bookies are very intelligent. It doesn't matter which book you're going with. They're all using great leading data. They all have the best of the best in their field because there's something the bookies know. If you can't beat them, join them. So they're going to recruit some of these people that were really great bettors, have them set lines for them and so forth, okay? So always keep that in mind. We'll talk about tease betting. That's one of the favorites of Big Amo and I. We trust the bookies for the most part. We tease their bet. That's how we bet a lot on our units. As far as that goes, let's talk about cashing out real quick, fellas. I'll have a personal story yesterday. Set a bet for the Jaguars on the first half, looking great. 2 field goals. They get across the field. Oh, Mr. Peterson, Doug Peterson, doesn't matter if it's preseason or not. 4th and 6, let's go for it. So they went for it, completed it, just didn't get the yardage needed. So here comes, Kenny Pickett, actually. He did 2 passes he did 1 pass to Deontay Johnson, another one to, is it Pickens, the wide receiver? The rookie is Pickens, right? And then he threw another one to the end zone to Deontay Johnson, got called back on a penalty, then threw another one back to him in about 30 seconds. They make the extra point. Killed my bet, okay? So cash out, the difference in that, not taking your whole bet back. I could have had my original bet plus about, 0.6 of a unit back on top of it. I was feeling good. I was like, well, I started watching it. I was driving, and I was like, oh, man, I don't want to mess with my phone. By the time you get around to even try it, guess what? Your cash out suspended. So don't be afraid to make a cash out early. Some people love letting it ride. They're like, hey, I made this money. I thought I'm okay losing it. I just like to keep the expression, fish and bread don't keep a poor man fed, right? So if you're not gonna go broke by making money, just like they say about basketball. You're not gonna lose points by putting it in the bucket, no matter how you get it in there. Okay. What are your thoughts on cashing out, fellas? Go ahead and start with you, Steven, first, and we'll end it with Big Amo. Just about cashing out and betting and live betting, kind of that aspect of do you cash it out, do you let it ride, etc.
Yeah, I mean, this is something I actually asked Amo a couple of months ago in the chat, and the advice he gave me was you're looking for maybe like a 40% profit when you're cashing out, and I think that's great advice. I had a bet yesterday for a top 10 golfer, Adam Scott, and the odds were plus 490, and I cashed it out at about plus 310. So, I made that extra money, and I'm not taking the chance today that he's going to T10 it. So just taking the money and run, it feels weird because you want to be right, and that sometimes catches up with you. Like, I know I'm right about this. I'm going to play it to the end, but take the easy money and take the extra profit. I think it's a smart decision. It's personally why I like to play FanDuel more than other sites, because they are really pushing cashing out right now, and they make it easy. So you can pretty much cash out at any time throughout a game.
As for cash out, I would strongly suggest it depends on what your ideology is for the start of the bet. So if you're thinking you can utilize it in two different ways, I suppose. I said this to Iggy yesterday. Let's just use a horse race for an example. We might want to put on our favorite horse. Let's call it Sad Ken. Okay, it's 10-1. So we know it's got a bit of a chance, but really it's 10-1 is not very good odds at all because the favourite is going off at plus 100. So what we can do in this sort of situation is we might know that Sad Ken likes to get to the front of the race early doors and dispenses a lot of energy, but at the same time, in play, which is the same, his odds will change and it will fluctuate because it's horse racing is a very fluctuating market. So we might get around to the last lap and Sad Ken's actually in the lead, and we've got the favourites just behind him. So this could actually be a tactic for the favourites, just allowing the initial horse to go forward. But at this point, because it's in front, the odds might have halved. It might have even dropped right down to sort of 4 or 5-1. And there's an opportunity for you then to cash out, knowing that, well, your 10-1 would never really win anyway. And so there's an ideal opportunity for you to cash out in a bet. So that's a strategy in which you can use the cash out to your benefit. But again, I think what Steven said is very, very good. Don't take it personally. I know I like the challenge of being better than the bookie, so that I know that their odds were wrong and I was right. If you can get yourself, I don't know, anything sort of 70-80% of profit that you would have done, and then you get into a situation where it's going to be almost 50-50 if it's going to happen. It could happen, it might not happen. They're on a drive. The last drive of the game in NFL is always going to be the same. They've got the 2-minute drill. So you're currently ahead at the moment. The bookies have got you sort of 60% in profit to cash out. What do you do? That's down to what you want to do, I suppose, ultimately at the very beginning. But if you put yourself in a situation where you can cash out and take some profit, that's a bonus. Or you let it ride, and then you've got that's you're almost gambling. You're almost sort of gambling that way that it's gonna work out. It doesn't always work out, but sometimes it does.
I'd love to get your guys' thoughts about ROI and cashing out for futures bets and how that works and how we look at that. It's a different game because the futures market is so volatile, and a lot of it follows the hype around a player or around a team. So I'd love to hear because it's a long-term strategy compared to the minute-by-minute things that happen in the game. So I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on that because I think that would be really interesting.
Well, with the futures bets, it's quite interesting because, again, it's to do with what you want from the bet. So if you're looking at sort of a minus 110 as a future, I probably wouldn't recommend that as a cash out opportunity. But if you've got something that we're going to discuss in a little bit later on, that's sort of starting at plus 700, so the MVP in the NFL, So what you can do, you can start putting out some big favourites if you know that the fixtures are going to suit them. Especially last year, that market was so fluctuated. Every other week, if they had a quarterback who had a good week, it was their go. It was Russ's had 2 weeks on the trot. He's now the favourite MVP. Then it's back to Brady. Then it's Mahomes. Oh, he played well. It's into him. So the market's going to fluctuate, whatever it may be. If you get yourself a good starting spot, then you've got the opportunity to cash out further down the line. Again, you'd have to have the sort of the ideology that you want to cash out first, or it's a case of everything running. And again, it's similar with the race. Do you want to get 40% profit off your bet? Happy days. Or do you want to try and push it to a little later on? It's the way the market works, and it's difficult to sort of predict the ROI because it's depending on how much you're putting in and how much you're going to get back as profit, and that's how the calculation sort of works. It's difficult, I suppose, but there is opportunities in these sort of larger markets to get profit, and also at the same time you can join at any time as well. You don't have to do it at the beginning of the month. So if you think that a particular team's got quite a poor stretch, for example, I believe I think it's the Cowboys. If they win their first 2 games, after that they've got pretty good stretch. So all of a sudden we might be hearing a lot about Dak Prescott being the potential MVP because he's got not a lot of good defenses coming after him. So there's so many. So you might be able to get on Dak Prescott now, and then his odds will shrink. So all of a sudden you might be able to get yourself, I don't know, 40, 50% back as the odds fluctuate, and then you're able to cash out from it. But,
to hammer on that point, last year, remember Packers went to Jacksonville. They were kind of the early season favorites to win the Super Bowl. Go to Jacksonville, get like hammered, or was it New Orleans? But it seems like both years they've had a bad start, right? So all of a sudden those odds dipped way down. Now there's no cash out value. But if you buy in, then it seems like it is. And to bring back to your question, Steven, I hedge a lot. So I go into there with like, okay, I've put this many units or this many total units towards this bet. And if I get a chance to cash out on one of them that, was a longer odd ones, for example, I got Devondre Campbell right now, Defensive Player of the Year. If he gets up hot and he gets out there, I plan on cashing that out. That's kind of how I look at it, my return on investment. I was like, well, if I can get a profit after all these that I hedged, and I can get down to, let's say, 1 or 2 that I've hedged down to, all of a sudden I'm ahead. I mean, I have nothing to lose at this point. So I will keep it going forward because then my return on investment's already, if nothing else, small percentage of a plus on a season-long bet. But I do tend to hedge. I kind of like it. The hot teams, for example, when you and I were talking about MVPs now for 2 years, you told me about Jokic about midway through his first MVP campaign that, like, hey, he's going to win it, and his odds are still pretty good. This second year when the Nuggets kind of went through that lull and Joel Embiid was really hot, it was all Joel Embiid. Oh, Joel Embiid's locked to get it. It's going to be Joel Embiid. He's got it. Oh, here comes Giannis all of a sudden with some great defensive play. Let's get Giannis back in the mix. Oh, nope. It was Jokic all along. And I've seen somebody that had like 4 or 5 Jokic MVP bets at different price values, and they showed where they cashed it out and where they carried 2 more. So that's another option too, to play it at the beginning and then double down, like you said, on one of the favorite players. And then you have two horses of the same person in the same race. Oh, but I'm getting way more of a return on investment if I cash this one out right now because the odds were higher. So that's how I kind of play it, to answer that question.
I think
guys.
Ultimately, Stephen, it's down to what you want to benefit from this. Obviously, if you want to have big winnings, the lottery is always a good option. But if you're looking to it's down to your individual, how much you want to get from your profit. I mean, you could just let certain bets ride and sort of stay with the futures if you think it's a good bet. But the idea of with it being all fluctuating, it's down to personal preference. So if you're happy taking, 40% of your potential earnings profit back, that's obviously down to your own discretion. I mean, I don't think it's wise for me to sort of project what's the best. I could do some mathematics for you, and I probably will, and I'll try and work out what probably is the most profitable area. But it is eventually down to personal preference. Let's just put a little spin on it. Okay, so we've put a 10 to 1 to win. So we put £100 on. So that gives us $1,100 in the potential kitty. Now, our guy is an absolute hero and has 3 great starts, wins the first 3, whatever it is. Now, also, that drops down to, say, his odds drops down to, say, sort of 5 to 1, 6 to 1. So what you're looking at there at a cash out probably would be about £200, £300 profit. So it's a case of, are you happy with that, or do you want to let it run? Obviously, if you think this guy's going to keep on going, you want to get better odds at each time. But if you take it as rather than as a business, and you take it as I don't know if you can do part cash out, you could probably do that as well and then at least you've got profit already in the bank, and you can play around with it however you want to going further on.
For futures, it's always interesting because it's, if you were looking at a live bet or just a regular bet on a single team, and that single team you could cash out at 100% or 200%, you'd be like, yeah, let's do it right now, let's cash that out. But when you go to the futures and you're looking in and you're getting 25 to 1, or I had the Celtics to win the NBA championship, and that was 30 to 1 when I got it, and it kept getting lower and lower and lower, and then I finally cashed it out at 15 to 1. It felt like a fool, but eventually they didn't win, so I was like, all right, I got my 15 to 1. But I think it goes back to me. I want to be right again, and just the lure of that big money is kind of something like I'm turning $10 into $300 or whatever it is. That's hard for me to walk away from and to cash out. But I'm trying to be like a smarter futures better this year, where it's just like, all right, I'm just going to take my winnings, and so I'm just thinking if you guys have any kind of rules of thumb on that, because for me it's kind of a new territory. I'm looking to cash out each one as we go. So
with my futures, I'm not going to bet any minus 110s this year. I'm not going to bet on any sort of how many wins they're going to have per team per se, because you sort of wrapping up all your money. Let's say you put 3 or 4 units. Okay, on a minus 110, you may as well just double up on the first week for the same sort of value. And that's why you have to go for the larger numbers, which are obviously less likely to come in. But it's just the way you want to attack it. I think there is opportunities in which you will be able to put on big numbers and you'll be able to cash out later on. But there's going to be some lines which are just going to, well, for example, one that we're going to hopefully talk about, I've got a funny feeling it's just going to, the odds are just going to shrink, and I want to get them at the best possible price point. So I'm getting them early on because I don't think the odds are going to get any bigger. But again, it's a difficult one, Stephen, and I think it's something you just got to try and just practice and get what's best for you. But being a more sensible, organised better would be definitely beneficial.
I want to give a shout out to TD real quick. He was online. He's on there watching. He's a bettor too. Thanks for tuning in, TD. I do want to say, Stephen, like, for example, let's segue this into a bet that Stephen told me about. I did it last year. Very profitable for me because I did the Green Bay Packers last year, so I got my bet back completely. But this is a bet on FanDuel, and what it is you have to bet at least a minimum of $50. But then and this is to win the Super Bowl. This is a Super Bowl victory, not to make the Super Bowl, to win the Super Bowl. Futures bet, okay? And if you bet at least that $50, you can bet more than that if you want. Whatever your unit may be is kind of irrelevant to whatever a bookie sets as a minimum for a bet. So this is a $50 minimum. You put that in for every win that team that you chose. Let's say you chose the Houston Texans because you're a big Houston Texans fan. Okay, those odds are going to be so crazy high. First off, I'm not sure you get a cash out option with this. I don't think you do because of how the incentive works.
There won't be.
Yeah, there won't be. And then so you get the Houston Texans. Let's say the Houston Texans do have a pretty decent year, win 8 games. Well, guess what? You got $40 back on your Houston Texans bet, and if they somehow make the playoffs, you got a $10 bet to go. That's not what I recommend putting your team on, but I'm just using that as an example. What's up, JC? Thank you for joining on. So you can put this bet down. Let's look at the favorites to win the Super Bowls real quick, guys. We got Buffalo at 650, Tampa Bay at 750, Kansas City at 1,000, Rams at 1,100, Green Bay at 1,200, Los Angeles Chargers at 1,400. So these are their odds at this moment to win the Super Bowl. Let's just take Buffalo, okay? And let's just, for easy sake, just say it was at 600, okay, instead of 650. All right, so you put your $50 down to cover that Super Bowl bet to get the $5 free bet. Now you're coming back. You got at least $300 if they win the Super Bowl too, right? Pretty good chunk of change, right? I would take that. But for every week they win, you get a free $5 bet to place that week. Which, Steven, you have a philosophy. I know we'd like to talk about that. But before we get into that, because I agree with your philosophy too, I'm doing something maybe a little different. But I do want you to share your philosophy of what you plan on doing with your $5 weekly wins. Who did you place in this situation? Because this is to segue it back to what you said before, Steven. I have multiple seasons on the Packers to win. I have my cash out option, and I have the one I'm letting it ride. Let's say we put 4 units on that total. Maybe I put the one on I'm going to let it ride, 3 on the one that I'm planning on cashing out and taking a profit from. Right? That's one way I handle it. But who is your favorite to win the Super Bowl, and why? And then maybe talk about your philosophy for that, Steven, and then we'll go into you, Big Amo.
So the way I handled this particular one, where you have to put the $50 down and you can't cash out, I took what I think is a layup, which is the Bills to, and you're taking they're pretty much giving you $300, and I think that's a great shot. And then if we're looking at other future bets, it was hard for me to walk away from the Philadelphia Eagles at 25-1. That's something that I think they can get hot. They got an easy schedule. If this was a cash out option, I would be going with them because I think that those odds are going to shrink throughout the season. They're kind of a hot favorite. That win totals moved up. This is it's creeping up. It was like 8 to start the preseason, and now it's like 9.5. It's going to go to 10. But how I'm looking at this, the Bills are going to win 10, 11 games, unless there's some kind of injuries. So I'm going to take that weekly 5, and I could take it and I could put another 5 down on the Bills, or I'm going to put 5 on the Broncos. I'm going to put 5 on whoever, and those are ones that I can cash out. And so by the end of the season, I have 11 Super Bowl bets, and I'm only paying $50, and I'm getting $100 worth of Super Bowl bets. And so I can hedge in many different ways, or I can double down. And I think that's a smart way to go with this. I was really excited when I saw this promotion because it's just a slam dunk. And I think you follow your best team. Dallas has an easy schedule as well. They're in the same division as the Eagles. And that's a team that could sneak up on people. I think it's 14-1, I think is what Iggy said. And that's a great option too. So, if you have that easy schedule, you're going to have home field advantage possibly. There's good ways to look at this. And so, I went with the Bills. I'd love to hear what you guys went. It sounds like Iggy with the Green Bay, but there's a lot of great teams that could actually do it this year.
Yeah, go ahead, Big Amo. What's your thoughts on the Super Bowl and how you would use your $5 per week, or how you will?
Well, unfortunately, because I'm in the UK, we don't have FanDuel, so I won't be able to partake. But maybe my maybe my Russian cousin might be able to get an account over there or something like that. I don't know. I think it's a fantastic offer, and you can hedge all sorts of ways. Not only that, if the Bills win, as we should expect them to, every other week, you've got a £5 free bet then for whatever you want to do the week after. You can either, I like the idea of Stevens, where you can put it all towards the Super Bowl, and then you've got almost £100 worth of bets on the Super Bowl. Or you can just do, I've got millions of ideas in which you can put your free bet on, and how you can do it. You can just do it with a prop and just add it to your bankroll for that week. So it's a fantastic offer, and I think everyone should try and, if they possibly can, take advantage of it. I'd say the Bills personally. But there is other. You're just looking for teams who's going to get sort of 10 wins. You might have a better chance. I mean, even if you take the Bills and it's like you said, £600 is not. Is it 600 or is it 300? £300 is still still phenomenal return.
Yeah, if you bet 100, you get 650 back. I'm just saying if you bet the minimum, you still got a chance to get a 300 on the Bills. I do have a small point unit on that. The Bills already win the Super Bowl, so that's why I went with my heart. I went with it last second. I was like 1,200. About a month ago it was 900, 1,000 on some sites. So they're moving it back probably because of the poor offensive play. But like I said, it goes back to me loving betting on my team. I root for Green Bay. I want them to win the Super Bowl every year. I'm a fan. I'm an owner. So that's part of the reason I took Green Bay. But I think they still got 10 wins. I think the NFC North is still, more or less wide open. I think they can still take the division. The NFC Conference, I think they're playing the NFC South, I believe. No, not Brady. I know they're playing the AFC East too. So I think there's some good chances for them to get 10 wins right there. So that's why I went with that. And like I said, I already have another bet. So now it allows this other bet to be my total cash out. This is my ride or go. And I do love the futures bet, Steven. What I did with the basketball, I don't know if y'all remember this, but they get me with the same game parlays, 3-leg minimum. I love the NBA Finals. I think it's one of the greatest sports events there are. So I'm watching it all the time. Big Alma and I were having some relative success, but they started getting me with these $10 minimum same game parlay bets. But guess what? You get a free bet if he doesn't hit. So I was just making straight $10 bets. And if it didn't hit, I turned around and used that on a defensive player of the year. So I'm going to diversify. I don't think I'm going to put all my eggs in one basket. If I'm feeling really good about a parlay and I got a free bet, like, hey, I'm going to put this 3-leg parlay on, maybe not a same game, but I'm going to try to maybe boost that, get a profit for the week. Next week, I may just try to get right around evens, build up my bankroll, and then I'm going to lay some future bets. You better believe it. I'm going to buy the dips on teams. I can tell you right now, the Broncos are going to come out and smash the Seahawks on Monday night. Every single odd is going to go down, way down, because Russell Wilson is going to look amazing in that game. He's going to make sure he shows everybody who he is, what he is, and what he was for that city. But there's going to be some bad weeks in the AFC West, which, let's face it, I'm going to think 2 of those teams are going to make it to the playoffs at least. So I'm going to play some hedging on some AFC West teams. I'm buying the dip, as they say, and I'm going to buy that low and place on some futures because I would like to at least get, let's say if I got 5 teams total, 6 teams total for the Super Bowl ride, I'm going to feel really good about my hedge. And maybe, like Steven said, getting a little bit of money right around Valentine's Day, that's not a bad thing to have, I like it. But moving right along, fellas, anything else about Super Bowl's futures? Philadelphia's good. I think Minnesota, the last time I checked, they're like 18-1, I believe. I need to go back and look at it. I think Minnesota's honestly got a dark horse candidate to go get a hot run and go to the Super Bowl. They're going to have an amazing offense that's going to be clicking in the playoffs. Their defense can uphold. They got a decent chance. I think Tampa Bay's a sucker bet with all these injuries. I said it right when Ryan Jensen went down. I was like, I think their Super Bowl chance is blown. People didn't realize how important that center was to their offense. Then they lose another offensive lineman, can't keep any wide receivers healthy. Where is Tom Brady? Is he just out on a yacht having fun? Is he going to come back and play football? We don't know. That's a little sucker bet. Do you guys have anything to say about the Super Bowls before we kind of talk about an MVP bet?
I was looking at, they have bets where it's division, where the Super Bowl winner is going to come from. And right now, that favorite, the favorites on both sides is the West. So it's AFC West, NFC West. The Super Bowl champ's going to come from one of those divisions. So you got to look at all those teams. And I think that a team like the Chargers at 14-1, I think that's a great bet. I think you're looking at, Kansas City's 10-1. There's a lot of teams there that are, the AFC West and the NFC West has to play each other, and that's going to be a little dangerous because everybody's going to be taking out everybody. But I think that I'm looking at those 2 divisions, especially when I'm making additional season-long Super Bowl bets.
Big Amo, anything to add in? By the way, JC said you're wearing a killer shirt. He loves the Batman shirt.
Thank you.
Classic Batman. That's awesome.
I've nothing for the Super Bowl. I like a couple of ideas for the. I've got a couple of ideas for the divisions.
Go for it, real quick.
If you want to, do you want me to go over those?
Yeah, go for
them. I'm not sure if I'm going to put any bets on because I think the value's gone out of them. I know, Stephen, you like the Eagles, but I really like the Eagles to win their division. That's at plus 163 at the moment, so it's plus money. But I don't want to put a particular large amount of money, sort of put that stashed away. I'd rather put that somewhere else. But they certainly, I mean, the Vikings at plus 275 to win their division might be not too bad because I know Iggy won't agree with me at all. But the Green Bay, if anything happens to Rodgers, you could really have a lot of trouble, I'm afraid, this year. Your defense will bail you out, but if you lose Rodgers for any sort of time, I don't think there's sufficient cover there. So Vikings might be in with a shout there. I'm really high on the 49ers this year, and I just think that possibly they might win their division as well, and they're at plus 175. So these are all plus money. They're all sort of second in the running. They're the sort of the ideas I have for the sort of divisional. I'm not putting any money on it yet though, because I think it's too much to have scored away, as I said before.
Yeah, real quick, I was on the Podathon. If you guys are looking, check out Fantasy Football on 5, benefiting Ronald McDonald House. I was on there earlier today, and there's a big Minnesota fan there. And I was like, dude, I think it's a 50-50 chance. They asked me who's going to win the division. I was like, I honestly think it's 50-50. And they made a great point. Game 1, Green Bay at Minnesota. The tone's going to be set for that game. There's not going to be any film on this new coach. So Justin Jefferson could have maybe a 200-point game if Alexander can't stop him, or a 200-yard game. I don't know what's going to happen. Minnesota is very scary. I think that's a great find. That's all I'm going to say. We got about 10 minutes left on the show, guys. We're going to segue to a bet. Our first unit bet for betting with Big Amo on the season. We have placed a bet. I'll give you the odds. But first, it's the season-long futures MVP. Steven, I'd like to get your input. And then Big Amo, you'll talk about who we chose and why we chose them. But real quick, here are the odds. And these are the previous, really the past 4 years MVPs, but the 3 quarterbacks that have won the previous MVPs. And then also 3 that I think have a pretty good chance. I kind of chose these guys. You guys talk about what you think. But Allen's at 650 right now. Mahomes is at 900. Herbert is at 900. Rodgers is at 1,000. Russell Wilson is at 1,400. And Lamar is all the way back at 2,000. Real quick, or not real quick, Steven, expand upon it. Who do you think will win the MVP? These are all good odds. Let's hear what you got.
Yeah, this is something that I have several different bets on, and you guys touched upon it earlier in the show about how Wilson had great, opening opening halves of seasons, and then he's the favorite, and everybody's rallying around him about getting MVP votes, and then it just all disappears. So he's actually somebody on a new team with some great wide receivers that I'm looking at. Hurts is another one. I'm looking at the Philadelphia Eagles because if they win 11 or 12 games, he's going to be right in that conversation. And he's getting 800 yards rushing and maybe 8 touchdowns, 7-8 touchdowns on the ground. He's going to be somebody like Lamar that just gets that steam. And, he's right now, he's 25-1. And I think or 20-1, which is fantastic. You look at somebody like Trey Lance and his numbers all over the place. We were talking about shopping numbers. You see that 25-1 in one place, 30-1, 40-1, there's 50-1 still overseas. Wow. And so he's somebody that you look at and maybe you put a little bit on him and you cash it out when the steam starts to go. And that hype starts to go because it's already going. That's why those prices are all over the place, because there's huge hype. No one knows exactly what this kid's going to do. And he's on a great team. And so he could push it. Like, I think it's a little bit unrealistic. He's basically going to be like a rookie. He's not a rookie, but he's going to be basically like a rookie in his first season. That's why I'm leaning more towards Hurts. But man, that's just amazing money for what he could do. I mean, just like Amo said, that 49ers team could be a Super Bowl favorite pretty fast. And so his odds can drop down to single digits within, 2, 3, 4 weeks. So I'm looking at that one pretty hard and putting some extra units behind Lance.
No, I agree with that. He was earlier in probably about a month ago. He was about 60-1. 60-1 in FanDuel. I heard it on a podcast. I can't remember who it was, but I think it was Drew Dinsick tipped it up. Fair play to him at 60-1 because they got close last year, and all they're doing is they're adding a mobile quarterback. So he has a good chance, I suppose, with them. The one that we've gone for, and people are going to say, well, it's obvious, but the reason is it's obvious is because we possibly could use the cash out in this sort of way. We've put a bet on Josh Allen quite simply because I think they're all in this year. They've strengthened everywhere they possibly can. They've probably got one of the best squads in the whole of NFL. And I think it's just one reason and one reason only this is going to happen is because the Bills have to have a home playoff game against the Chiefs. This is what they've built everything for. They've built the whole squad to beat the Chiefs. They haven't been able to do it for the last 2 years. This year, they possibly are. So what they're going to do, they're going to set off like a house on fire. They're going to try and get as many wins as they possibly can. So if they can get as many wins as they possibly can against a schedule which is kind of weak, we were going to expect them to do probably well throughout the year. They want to be in a position where they are top of the division and they have to play a home game. If they then have the Chiefs at home, it will then change around. Now, I'm not saying that the Chiefs are automatically to get into the divisional finals. It's all to do with the fact that they want to be in a better position in the first place, and I think that's the reason why Josh Allen's going to be noticed all year, because he's going to be winning, and I just think he'll stay at the top of that ladder for months. And all the odds are going to happen is just going to drop. They're just going to drop until it's going to get, I don't know, probably about plus 200, something like that. It'll be around about there, and it'll be him and one other, which will be the flavour of the week. So that's why I think Josh Allen's going to go MVP this year.
I want to
you
add
also
to that
had a really good angle.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to agree with that. That's we talked about that big on Monday. We wanted to make a good futures bet, a first unit bet. Like we said at the first of the show, we have a bankroll. We put a unit on this. We may cash it out. We may ride it. One of the deciding factors for me is primetime games. Okay, this is the significant thing that the statistic really, I guess it is, but it's an unmentioned aspect of it. In the primetime games, every MVP voter gets to watch those. Like, they all go watch every game, but they watch those primetime games live. It gives you a different feel for it. And I believe the Bills are in five or six primetime games this season, opening the season. They are hyping the Bills to win the Super Bowl. They are hyping Josh Allen to be that guy. They want him to be the face of the NFL next, or to be in that rotation with Lamar and Patrick Mahomes as the face of the NFL. Everything is set up for him to be the MVP. If he just does what he does, then he is going to be almost a lock for the MVP, in my opinion, because they're really pushing it. Bills are a great organization. I love small town teams. Doesn't matter if it's basketball, football, soccer, whatever. I'm always kind of rooting for those teams, and I think that the NFL is very aware of that. The Bills are going to build a brand new stadium. I'm pretty sure in the next 5 years they've approved it. So they're going to get hyped. That's going to be a great team. And like you said, they've loaded up this year. They went and got Von Miller. They went and got like 4 running backs. They went and got another tight end. They went and got Crowder. They are loaded up for Josh Allen to have success. He's going to be able to use his running back. He's going to be able to use Gabriel Davis. He's going to be able to use Stephon Diggs. He's going to be able to use Dawson Knox. I mean, everything is set up for him to win it. That's why we're kind of all in on Allen. I do love Russell Wilson. I told you guys that I'm going to place another small wager on him before the season begins, because his numbers are going to immediately dip. Steven, great point. I forgot about how great his first half of the seasons are. He tailors off in the end, sometimes gets lucky in the playoffs. That's Russell, but let's look at that as a cash out option. Gentlemen, anything y'all would like to add about this show, about betting or anything as far as the season goes?
No, I'm really happy. It's been fun, guys. The one thing I want people to maybe start looking at if they're looking at futures is the win totals. And this year, a lot of sites have alternate win totals. And I think that it'll be a game above or a game below. For an example, I have Seattle minus 4.5 at plus 190. And I think that's great because that Seattle team's going to be terrible. And on the other side, I've been talking a lot about Philadelphia. I got them at 10.5. And that's plus 190 also. That's a number that's going to go down. So they just got to win 11 games for me to get there. And so just look at those lines and look at how, don't overreact to how teams are playing in the preseason, but there's a lot of teams, they don't even get anywhere close to these lines. They either go way below or they go way above these win total lines. And so there's an advantage there if you take a look at it.
Right on. Thank you, Steven. Big Amo, anything you'd like to say in closing?
We've just got one more bet. I'll be really quick as I possibly can. I've been doing some digging into The defensive player of the year. We like the IDP side, me and Iggy, and this is what we've come across. So I've correlated all the fixtures and all the players who are possibly up for the defensive player of the year and the rookie defensive player of the year, and who they're playing against the O-lines as compared to PFF's O-line ranking for this year, and also the Action Network's rankings for the year. Obviously, this is all subjective, so it might not be 100%, but it gives me a rough idea that who might have sort of standout games. Now, when we're talking about Aaron Donald, he will go against any defense, any O-line, and try and break it up and he'd try and get it stuff. But if you give Aaron Donald the chance against a sort of the 32nd or 31st ranked O-line, he's going to have more chances. So, for example, the Bears last year, they had, Myles Garrett put 5 sacks in just one game. So having just playing the Bears is possibly an advantage for a defensive player this year. So looking at the simple stats, I won't go too much into it. What we can do, we could probably talk about it, put it on your website if you want. But I've gone with the lowest ranked sort of offensive lines are projected to be the Seattle, the Bears, the Steelers, the Raiders, the Falcons, the Titans, the Jags, and Arizona. And out of them, Hutchinson from the Lions, actually out of the 18 games he's playing 11 of the bottom 15 offensive lines. So to me, putting 2 and 2 together, that is a very good opportunity for him to possibly get 11 sacks. I'm not saying he is going to, but there's a possibility that he might. And then the nearest other rookie that's close to him is Thibodeau, and he's only playing 7 of the 15, and then it's 6, 6, 6, and 6. So he's got an advantage of nearly sort of 4 games in which he's going to be playing against weaker offensive lines. It's not an exact science, but I really like Hutchinson at, I think it's plus 550 at the moment to be Defensive Player of the Year. Plus, he's got a name because he was the 2nd overall, so there's a chance that they possibly might vote in that way. As for the Defensive Player of the Year, I really like the Bosa brothers. Similar sort of thing. They've got 11 out of the 15 potential chances to get sacks as well. So both of them are in a good position to get sacks. They've got the Mac there for Joey to help him out. And, Nick Bosa's just an animal if he just stays fit. So both of them are potential opportunities for the Defensive Player of the Year as well.
Yeah, next week's show is going to be a lot about Defensive Players of the Year. We're going to talk about my hedge bets, break down a little bit of what Amo told you. That was a great clip to keep people on. He's got a great statistics, a great chart. We've been looking at it the past couple of weeks. So next week, we're going to be talking about a little bit more futures, Defensive Players of the Year, Rookie Defensive Player of the Year. We might get a little something in on there, but we are going to expound on the defense. Steven at Flavorize This. Go check him out, guys. He's on the Twitter. He's always posting these free bets and these great – the Eagles bet you just heard, I saw him post it. The draft or the FanDuel bet, I've seen him post those. I'm always interacting with Steven. Please go follow him. He's a head full of knowledge. Won one of the biggest charity tournaments out there. A great bettor. Thank you for being part of the show, Steven. And as always, Big Amo's here, right here in the middle with us at Loco Beans with the Z at the end at Zeta. And I'm your host, IDP Iggy. Please go follow us on all platforms. Sign up for the page. We're going to have information. Anything Amo's getting to me, it'll also be out over there. I really appreciate you. Remember, bet safe. This is for fun. And we'll be here next week. All right. I love you guys. Be safe, be smart, and we'll see you soon.